Well, hello, all you Star Vista Live cruisers and fans out there. Your virtual cruise host, Jason here, and welcome back to another edition of All Access Pass from Home. More specifically, all of you 70s rock and romance fans out there. Glad to have you tuning in. Today, I'm very excited to sit down with two of, I consider them our very own because we got to know them so well and so intimately on the last cruise, Joe and Shannon from Ambrosia. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Thank you very much.
Great. Nice to see you, Jason.
You as well. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come hang out and chat a little bit. I know the fans really appreciate catching up as well.
Great.
Well,
looking forward to being with them again.
Amen to that. I just said I kind of consider you two of our own after this last cruise, more so beyond the friendships and the relationships we've created. But for anyone who wasn't on the last cruise or who hasn't done that cruise, we had a great, big, unique, fabulous event on board the cruise. Why don't you, blushing couple, tell everyone what happened on the last Rock and Romance cruise?
Well, I'm gonna let Shannon do it.
He's gonna show you a prop. We got married at an Ambrosia Rock and Romance concert right there with all of our fans. It was so much fun.
It's not every day that a couple gets married and invites all of their 2,000 of their closest friends that happen to be on the ship with them.
I wouldn't do it any differently.
It was
so amazing to have everyone there. That everyone was there because they all enjoy rock and roll and good music, and they were so energizing. It was so much fun.
What motivated you to want to do it on the ship?
Well, it started off, our drummer actually has done several where he's presided over marriages. He married his own son. He's married a few other of his friends.
Right.
And they were, I think we were on a road, and Shannon and Burley, our drummer, were ready to go get a car. They were on the shuttle to go get the
They're the designated drivers.
They're the DDs, yeah. So when they started talking about the marriage, he said, "You guys ought to get married during a concert." And, it was kind of like, oh, okay. And then the Rock and Romance cruise came up. Wow. And not only that, Stephen Bishop, who we became very good friends with, said, when he found out we were going to get married, he said, "I want to sing at your wedding." And then John Forcoli was a friend. Well, I want to sing at your wedding too. And then Peter Beckett, same thing. "I want to sing at your wedding." So we had three guys that said they wanted to sing at our wedding. They're all on the cruise. I'm thinking, okay,
stars are aligning.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Right,
the stars are lining up here.
That's
we got
right.
all the people that want to sing at our wedding.
Talk to Alan.
We got the guy who wants to marry us is in the band.
Right.
He wants to do it at a concert. Let's see what you guys think. So we threw it out to your higher
Star
ups.
Vista, yeah.
And then Janine got involved, and
that's usually
so great. Yeah.
Janine and Shannon put it
and then Kelsey
together, and Kelsey and
they just helped make all my dreams come true. And your wife, Brittany.
So my part of it was basically just sitting back and waiting for them to figure out everything, because you know how it goes in marriage.
I do.
Weddings usually the women.
I do. If we're smart, we just get out of the way.
Shannon put together a whole script, and she asked me to put a little bit in, but she had finally designed a script based around the songs that had, been a big part of her life growing up, and all these people that were the songs that she was listening to.
That album out.
All these people are suddenly going to be singing at the wedding, and it was just like, talk about the stars lining up. It really was, as you said, it was a one-of-a-kind thing, and it was one of a kind that everything was all coming together, including what you mentioned the other day, that there had been some inclement weather just the day before. The day of the wedding, it was perfect and beautiful.
And I'm sure you guys were looking out the window or on your balcony or wherever you were out on deck, but we were just talking about before we started shooting that, Kelsey and Janine and Brittany and we felt pretty invested by that point too. It's like, we were all in this with you guys, and we were at the window that morning just, come on, just watching every cloud move. I was prepared to call the captain and ask him to divert one direction or the other to avoid rain clouds. And I don't know if you remember, but it looked a little ugly in the morning. We were like, oh no. And then it all cleared up and was beautiful. And then literally when it ended, it poured that afternoon. Like not long after, it hammered down rain. It literally, the stars aligned, you got married. And then everything that was on hold was like, okay, it's over. Let's go. All right, we got.
So that one little spot. The rest of the cruise, the weather was great too, but that one little area was like, oh, is it gonna be okay? But perfectly. By the way, she wanted this album.
We brought this back up because this was a big deal. Remember, this was my wedding prop.
Yeah.
So here we have Peter Beckett, and the song is "This Time I'm In It for Love," which was one of my favorite songs. This is my favorite K-Tel hit record. And then here's John down here. And it was also "We'll Never Have to Say Goodbye Again," which I had already chosen those two songs and then found my album. And there you go. There's where the stars aligned too. And it's pretty special.
Ta-da. Well, and Joe, there was another vocalist that day who you were not expecting.
Yes, I've never heard. I had never heard Shannon sing. She is so well. Having been a fan of the band, and she you know, she was a little bit intimidated to sing in front of me.
Sure.
So she saves it. She won't sing in front of me at any time. Suddenly, the first time I get to hear her sing is at our wedding she's singing in front of several thousand people.
Guts, I tell you.
Yeah, okay, well. And since then, she still hasn't sung in front of me. She's held it back again. I'm trying to get her to just let it go.
Wait till your anniversary. Wait till your anniversary. She's just, it's special occasions only.
That's all right.
Shannon,
no, I want her more.
Shannon, had you sung publicly before your wedding at all?
No, I was in choir in high school, but that was groups, right? So
that is
no
so
solos.
gutsy. That is gutsy.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to rehearse with the band at all. So they all were working on it by themselves, and I never had a chance to do it with any of them. I was going to practice with Mary, and I never got a chance. So it was, and when she started, I wasn't even ready to go. So suddenly I was like, oh, and it was there, and the wind is blowing. You can't hear yourself. But
yeah.
Made him smile. I can tell by his face that it was worth it.
I was overjoyed. I couldn't believe it. I mean, talk about gutsy. Yeah, that really said a lot to me.
I mean,
about her character.
To your point a moment ago. Okay, it's one thing to have never rehearsed with a band. Now you can speak intimately to that. To walk up to a microphone for the first time, not knowing the acoustics, not knowing what the band actually feels like. No matter how many times you've heard the song, everything is different live on a stage. Everything, even if you're just emceeing, acoustics are different. The lighting is different. If you're outside, inside, who can hear you, what you can hear, what's in your ear. Are you hearing the train rush or are you hearing silence? Are you, there's a million little inputs in that. So having not rehearsed, let's take that. Doing it with a live band versus a recording is extremely challenging, having rehearsed or not. Doing it in front of a bunch of 2,000 people who are music aficionados on a cruise specifically for rock and roll, and doing it with Ambrosia, John Ford Coley, Peter Beckett. I mean, you didn't exactly aim low.
Jason, it's a good thing we didn't discuss this before.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have said any of this before. I was terrified.
I just wanted to do something really
so cool.
Would really hit him. Yeah, something he didn't think I'd ever do. I wanted to shock him. So
yeah, she shocked him.
Shocked him.
Very much so. So much that I had to go out and repay her. Yeah. So okay.
I literally remember Brittany come downstairs because Brittany was upstairs with you and Kelsey and everybody, and Brittany came downstairs, and I didn't really know you were singing at that point. And Brittany looks at me and goes, "She's singing live, and she's never done this before." I was like, "Oh, okay. This is moving pieces to a big event here." Like
I'd like you to work up something for the next time we do.
Yeah. I'll have something ready to go. Well, you just said something kind of jokingly offside there, but you also celebrated an early birthday right now, and your present arrives today. Would you be able to share with all our guests and fans out there what is arriving today?
Okay, so I am a big fan of horses, and I've had them off and on in my life. And as I've moved and changed life, things in my life, I kind of gave up on that. And Joe and I recently purchased a home with some land. And today, my early birthday present from Joseph is a horse. So she's arriving today, and we're very excited about it.
And what's her name?
Cara Blanca.
Cara Blanca.
White face, evidently, which Cara also means kind of like, it's like a sweetheart too. It's kind of like, so it's in Spanish,
name.
Cariño is like you're someone you're very fond of.
It's perfect for a puerta.
Yeah, it goes with everything else
with the
around
Spanish stuff, right?
I think you also said too, you live on Hacienda Drive, right? I mean, you have all these different,
It all lines up.
Sort of does. So anyway, within the hour, I think, or so, we'll be able to see her for the first time near us.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, happy early birthday. Congratulations. That's fantastic. So we could spend all this time catching up personally, but let's take a moment, if you don't mind, Joe. Take us back a few years to the early days of Ambrosia. How does the band that everyone knows and loves, how does the band get together? What's the concept in the beginning?
Well, I'm actually the guy who started the band without thinking I was going to be starting Ambrosia. I had joined my first original band out of high school. A friend of mine that I kind of didn't know really well, but he called me and wanted to know if I wanted to join this band. And sure, I wasn't doing anything time. So I joined this group. One by one, I brought in members that I liked. I brought in David Pack into the band as another guitar player. I was playing guitar at the time, and a guy named Rex Bailey was the other guitar player, and Dave. And we had a guy named Jim Gamble was our bass player. And Jim Gamble turned to me one day and said, Joe, I'm going to start a sound company. You're going to buy me 2 D140 speakers, and I'm going to make a little sound company. So I said, okay, you're going to be the bass player. So okay. So I was very amenable. So I did that. I bought some speakers for him. He went on to become one of the greatest designers of sound equipment in rock history. The Grateful Dead still use the Gamble consoles that he hand builds, and Dave Matthews. Some major acts use the Gamble consoles. He was the bass player of that band. Went on, I became the bass player. One by one, people left. With the keyboard player we had, we were a little dodgy with. So I said, I know this guy from Narbonne High School, where I was going to high school, named Chris North. And Dave, you got to go see this guy. This guy's something else. So he was in a competing band with us at the time. We went to this rehearsal place. It was a shed that they had converted into a rehearsal spot, but it was really like artsy. Like they had a coffin that was wired with speakers. On the end of this room, Chris was there. He had his long hair. He had a bottle of wine. He was smoking a cigarette. And he had a girl like massaging his shoulders. I go, wow, we got to get that guy in the band.
That's a rock star.
He was a rock star. He was the big rock star. So then we brought in Chris into the band. Then the last piece of the puzzle, the drummer we had, was going okay, but then he got married. He had a kid. He couldn't rehearse as much and stuff like that. So we decided we need somebody. We were all just wanted to focus 100% on making it as a band. We said, this isn't going to work unless he can really devote himself to the cause. So we started looking around for another drummer. We went to this place called the Musicians Contact Service in Hollywood. We paid $5, and they give you a list of billions of drummers, and you're going down this list of all their names and what they're into style-wise, age and everything. You're trying to find somebody that fits. We come across this name, Burley Drummond. We go, oh my God, that can't be a real name, is it? This is like a stage name, isn't it? So anyway, he's the same exact age as us, very similar musical interests, So, we go to meet Burley, and we invite him to I think it was at my parents' house. We were still living at home. And we set up in my mom's dad's living room, and we do this like 2-hour-long jam. I go, this is the guy. He just, wherever we go, he can just go with us and stuff like that. And the final thing, he had this incredibly beautiful purple VW van. We really needed a van for hauling our gear. So he could do everything, and he's got a van. So Burley was the last piece of the puzzle. And so the four of us went on to, do all sorts of different things, trying to get signed. And the way actually we got signed inadvertently kind of was this indirect path. Jim Gamble became, as I said, a big sound guy. He called us up one day, said, "Do you want to play the Hollywood Bowl?" I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean, Hollywood Bowl?" He said, "Well, look, we need to demonstrate a sound system to get the gig for supplying the sound for the Hollywood concerts." So we said, sure. We on a Sunday afternoon, no one was there. They set up this big sound system. We set up our gear on stage, and we played so that they could listen to the sound system and judge if they thought it was adequate. And at the end of our little demonstration of the sound system, this very sophisticated debonair Englishman came up to us and said, I was hired by the Hollywood Bowl to be the sound consultant for this year. And I was out there with my DB meter and listening, and I started to analyze your music. And are you guys classically trained? And da-da-da. I said, not really, a little bit. Chris had taken some lessons. Burley was going to UCLA. But basically, we were kind of self-taught. But we were trying to be in the prog rock vein, doing some very sophisticated arrangements. And he got really intrigued. He said, if you'd like to come to the Hollywood Bowl this season, I'll be here all season. Anytime you want tickets, just let me know and I'll let you in. So, man, we were like, had no money. This is great to get to see a Hollywood Bowl every night. So we did that. We came, and his name was Gordon Perry. And he was 5-time Grammy Award winner for Best Classical Engineer. Yeah. And he tried to help us get a record deal with his label, London Decca. But it never really happened. But we got to meet Zubin Mehta, Lucas Foss, Leonard Bernstein, all the classical contexts.
Yeah.
And one by one, it led to us playing at the Hollywood Bowl with Lucas Foss and the LA Phil. And it's a long story, I know. But then we got to do a guy named Steve Goldman was at the concert we played with the LA Phil. And he got us into A&M Records. We cut some demos. And those demos didn't get us signed with A&M, but they got us signed a few years later with 20th Century Fox, our first record deal. But it was like this unusual path that we took.
Yeah.
But people wonder how it happens. It wasn't a straight line. It was like this connected to here, that connected there, etc.
It's really interesting. No, are you kidding me? That's why people are tuning in. It's really interesting when you talk to the artists and the bands and whether it's a solo artist or a group, that I feel like people either started and hit, right? Somehow they just hit right away. Peter Noon and Herman's Hermits had some success right away, right? Talking to Peter the other day, some people just kind of had that step in and go. They didn't do years of toil, and then some did years of toil. Some, not that you did, but some did. Gosh, we were a garage band basically playing the local scene for 10 years before we got a look, and then all of a sudden we found success. It's very interesting how the divergence in the path of a rock star or a well-received band or solo artist. Do you think there are pros and cons to be on either side of that?
Well, in the case of, you said Peter Noon and the Herman's Hermits, it worked well for them, so I can't criticize that. Sometimes I look at the American Idol model and think,
exactly what I was talking about.
It seems like it's almost too rushed, and they don't have some of them have talent, but they don't have a lot of depth as artists. And I think I think it takes time to develop that kind of depth as an artist. And some of them, have gone on to be very successful, but I think the majority of them have sort of sunk into, sort of vanished from the scene. I can't think of that many. There's several huge stars, but how long has American Idol been on? And think about how many have become that top tier. It's only a handful.
A small handful, a very small handful. And I guess that's kind of what I was referring to, is that, I think in my experience, getting to know Ambrosia and getting to know, the artists that we are lucky enough to have the relationship with at Star Vista. It's interesting because you guys have all made it, right? I mean, you've made it anywhere from, one of our cruises is a 50s, 60s cruise, right? Our malt shop cruise. So we're talking about artists that have been working strong for, or well known for 70 years. I mean,
Isn't that amazing?
that's unreal, right? I tell the story all the time about first time I met Chubby Checker, and I love Chubby to death. Everybody knows the twist. Everybody in the world has heard that song, right? At one point in time, and I think even still, it's in the top 10 most recognizable songs on the planet, right? You meet Chubby Checker, and the man's going strong since the 50s, and it's, and then you've got on the other end of that, you've got, to your point, and that's kind of what I was talking about, you've got people that have this monster immediate success, and I'm never one to criticize people as they go through these things because I don't know what it's like. Everyone likes to take their shot at the Justin Biebers of the world and things like that had this monumental success, and then they didn't implode. He's still a major star. And again, I'm not taking a shot at him at all, but it's how do you cope with that level of stardom and that level of explosion after not toiling away for 10 years, after not battling and auditioning and, playing the back rooms, and the YouTube you can get 10 million views overnight right now from something you did in your living room, and
Yeah.
we're a viral fame type of society now. And I think it creates wonderful moments to moments, but I don't, it's hard to see a lot of the lasting success that came from, from 50s, 60s, 70s, music.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a lot of people, and it's still out there. And again, I don't mean to disparage today's music at all or today's artist at all, but people, because of the ability to go viral so quickly through TV and internet, the need to go to 10 venues to be seen by 10 different audiences was necessary then, where it's not now. We can do this and be seen by 10 million people tomorrow, and that's it, right? We've done our work. It's fascinating. You guys also caught on. A lot of people. We get this request all the time at Star Vista. If you're on board, people want to play with you, and they want you to play with them. From Michael McDonald and on and on. People love you guys to death. How does a band that has such a strong presence in their own right also create such a wonderful relationship with other artists? And I'm going to use a horrible term, as a backing band, which you're not. And I don't mean to infer that you are, but people love to have you behind them and not.
Well, all these friends of ours, I mentioned Al Stewart earlier. We worked with Al Stewart, Gary Wright, of course, Peter Beckett and Stephen Bishop, John Ford Coley, all these people that are solo artists.
Yeah.
Where they are in their career, they haven't kept that backing their own band going for 20 years. It's a lot easier just to say,
yeah,
hey, let's get together and do a show. We started thinking of that idea years ago, and little by little, it became a good marketing thing for us, because we can go and do a show with it's basically the soundtrack to people's lives. If we have a show with Gary Wright doing Love Is Alive and Dreamweaver, Really Want to Know You, bringing in Al Stewart, and we're doing Year of the Cat, Time Passages. Then we bring John Ford Coley in, and then we do our hits. It's like people have just heard the soundtrack to an era, and it's just with only one band, though. So it makes it, for us, it's enjoyable because you enjoy playing these songs because we were influenced by all these artists.
Sure.
I mean, these are great songs.
I think it's fun for fans, though, because it's like a double concert.
Absolutely.
Like for me, I was like, oh, I'm getting to see Ambrosia and Al Stewart, and it's or Orleans backs up bands or solo artists too. So when I would see that, it was like, oh, I see Orleans. And to me, as a fan, it just makes it that, because it's all the big rock and roll guys, from that era playing together, and the chemistry is good.
Yeah,
I love it.
you have to get along with everybody. You know, that's the other thing. We're lucky to find and these guys that are amenable to doing this, because not everybody wants to do it. You know, you have to find the right combination of people, but it's worked out really well with all those different people. We've been doing that for a few years now.
And you get to play other songs.
Yeah, we enjoy it. We really do. It's a lot of fun to do songs like Dreamweaver, Love Is Alive, You're the Cat. I mean, you know, This Time I'm In It for Love. And what's that other hit that Player had? They had a pretty big hit called
Baby
Come Back.
Baby Come Back, yeah. I mean, I haven't heard of that.
You're getting played. Probably one of the biggest hit songs of all time, you know. And that song was like is there more than a number one? It was like
A1, yeah. Well, to Shannon's point though, I think it's also something that's very cool. You know, when a guest speaking of the cruises, you know, when a guest comes on the cruise, they can't wait to see insert artist name, you know, whichever one of you it is. But it's unique to see artist crossover, and that, you know, that is something where the guest gets to feel special. You know, the guest gets to feel like this doesn't happen every day. If you go online and you watch a Michael McDonald concert, or you watch an America concert, or you watch a whoever concert, you see that band or that group play. You don't often see, oh my God, that's such and such behind them. No, that creates that, you know, that cherry on top of something that they were already expecting to have a good time. But wow, holy cow, again, to Shannon's point, you know, that's Ambrosia. Yeah. What are they doing? You know, in fact, we used you as a surprise artist one year where people didn't even know you guys were on board, you know, and all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh.
The Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
Back Michael too. And we,
that was fun.
Yeah. Surprise ourselves. Yeah.
Do you have artists that you, I mean, obviously, and I'm not asking for favorites, but I know you love all these artists. Are there some artists that you just have had such a great long lasting relationship with? I mean, I assume it's probably, you know, Beckett and John Ford Coley and those guys that you just can't wait to play with.
All those guys. I mean, the fact that they all volunteered instantly to sing at our wedding. I mean, that was like, you know, well, I'm going to sing at your wedding. Like, you know, well, great. I mean, thank you, Stephen and John and Peter. I mean, we had to turn down some people. Everybody suddenly wanted to come on. Remember Pablo Cruz? Wanted to go, no, we got too many people. And Pablo Cruz was on this cruise with us, and we're friends with them as well. But we had to say no. Actually, no. Sorry, Pablo. They're great guys. By the way, they were one of the highlights musically on the cruise. They have such a great band.
Agreed. They hit hard. I think what's great about Pablo Cruz Pablo Cruz suffers from the Leonard Skinner disease, which is, who's Pablo? Yeah. I got that from somebody, right? I got that from so many guests. They're like, oh, we love Pablo Cruz. We love him. And, you know, they'd name a few hits and then they'd be like, so which one is Pablo? It's, you know, which one is Leonard Skinner? It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Is Pablo Cruz related to Tom?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, how did you form this band? Yeah. So let's move into today a little bit in terms of Ambrosia. Obviously, you guys have had such success from the 70s, you know, on through into today. So you're somewhere in that 50-year range of success and being a band. Do you still write? Do you still create? Are you still producing new music, or is it mostly just fine tuning, you know, and continuing with what your catalog already exists?
We do have new music, and right now we've been mulling over the idea of trying to put something together of a new release, but right now everything is on hold, so we're kind of like just over it. But we've got catalog songs that matter of fact, during this time of a break, kind of going back over some old tapes and finding songs, I go, gee, I forgot about that song. That's kind of a cool song. It's been a treat
for me. He found his old cassette tapes.
Old cassettes, yeah.
I'm listening to these early songs
and so we'll see. I hate to make promises, put it that way, because of the state of the industry, it's a little bit different when you don't have a record company behind you to finance what we'd like to do quality wise, because we've always had albums that were nominated for Grammy for Best Recording. Of course, we worked with Alan Parsons, and you know, it's considered one of the giants of sound.
Parsons, yeah.
And we would like to do it, you know, in a similar way, but that takes a budget, and the budgets today, without a record company behind us, it's like we're just kind of waiting to see, like, when does this make enough sense for us to do this? And right now, with everything on hold,
Yeah, the world
time.
on hold.
Yeah.
And actually, as you say that, you've got some very bright, shiny material behind you on the wall. Do you mind looking over your shoulder there and telling us what we're looking at there on the wall?
Gosh.
A couple of albums, a little doohickey at the top middle there.
These are some of the albums that, you know, a lot of people may know. I also, besides Ambrosia, I played with Bruce Hornsby in the Range. And up on top, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, oh, we can see it.
That's the Grammy we won for being the best new artist. Way back, it was 1987. So 86 is the award the year before. You get it.
Yeah.
They have the show the next year. And those are a couple of the albums over the Hornsby career that are up on the wall. And those are the ones that are showing right now. But yeah, from the Hornsby.
Our house is my Joe Puerta shrine, you know.
Yeah, there's
I started collecting rock and roll memorabilia for like a long time ago. And
she does have quite a.
Finally found a place for it.
We're trying to find, yeah. But so anyway, yeah, that's what you're looking at right now in the background.
And how did, you know, and I should have asked it before the wedding there, but how did you two beautiful people meet?
John Portoli. It was John. So Ambrosia came to, I lived in Illinois. I'd been going to many, many concerts, obviously, big fan forever, and a big Ambrosia fan, but a big John Portoli fan. And he was coming to the town I lived in, and I bought tickets, and I didn't realize that Ambrosia was playing with him. And got there, was so happy to find out it was Ambrosia also. And so we tell John it was his fault. And Joe talked to my daughter from the stage because she was the youngest member there in the audience. She was very young, I guess 8. And he talked to her. The person in front of myself and Madison was not, they weren't there, so he could see her. And he talked to her from the stage, and then he talked to her when he came off the stage, and that kind of started like, oh, this guy's pretty nice. And started a friendship with Ambrosia and John, of course. And I was called the #1 Ambrosia fan because I traveled to many, many shows thereafter. For 2 days, I would drive to go see an Ambrosia concert. Kept in touch, and there you go.
It evolved.
It evolved.
And then you got married at an Ambrosia concert. I mean, really, what could be better?
Telling the story, you know, and what better story to tell than John Portoli? Oh my gosh, he's great. He's
adorable. He's just a wonderful, wonderful human. I'm a big fan. So if you don't mind me digging a little bit and asking, obviously we're all going through a little bit of a quarantine thing here. Everyone is, well, somewhat quarantined. There's the stay at home, you know, is being encouraged. You guys said you just relatively recently bought the house, so I'm sure you've got plenty to keep busy with during this time. Tell us a little bit about how you're spending your stay-at-home days.
Well, in the yard for a horse.
Yeah, I mean, we have the land that we had enough land for a horse, but it wasn't prepared for. It wasn't really designed. It was kind of, they had thrown together some thing that might have worked, but we just took it all out. It was just hard to explain. And we had, you know, like a bobcat in here bulldozing the land, and they're putting up retaining walls and fences and all of that. And
okay, then I'm going to interrupt because Joe's creative side is coming in handy here, because we have a lot of rocks on the property, beautiful rocks. And every day I tell his sisters, I cannot keep him inside. He's out there moving rocks and creating pathways. Gorgeous, but he's using his creative side outside, and it's beautiful.
We have a pond. We have a frog pond, and at night you hear all these frogs going crazy, and it's about a little fountain for it and stuff. You know, stuff like that.
We named it Mama Frog after.
And we have a song called Mama Frog.
Yeah, has a song frog.
and
So,
she bought a really cool frog that sits overlooking the pond, and so it's just fun for us. It's like literally we were
never home,
we
so
were
this is good
and we were living
for
in a
us.
condo for the last couple of years before this. So it was nice because we were near the ocean before. We used to take a lot of walks by the ocean and stuff. We enjoyed that. But this is like finally, we're out in nature, lizards, snakes,
Turkey.
Kid, what area what area are you guys in? You guys are in the States. What area of the States are you in?
We're in. I'll just say loosely. We're in Northeast San Diego County.
Okay. I thought you were still west. I just wasn't sure if you.
Yeah.
I'm up in Oregon, so I understand intimately the amount of wildlife that is around out west.
Yes, Oregon's a beautiful.
Yeah, we had I just recently I was talking to Gino Vanelli, and we were talking about, because he lives actually in Oregon as well, and he was kind of blown away. Yeah, he does. He just actually small town Oregon even, and he was blown away by the sheer amount of wildlife out this way. He was born and raised Eastern Canada, and so coming out here, he's just like, I was in New York and LA, and now I've got coyotes and cougars and bears and moles and deer and raccoons, and he's into it. I mean, like I said, incredibly introspective and wonderful guy, but he was just very kind of, yeah, I killed a mole. I thought I got the mole, and then I realized there's hundreds of them. You don't get the mole, you got a mole. Like, yeah, it's exactly what happened. Are you big outdoor folks? Do you like to be outdoor?
Well, it's going to be changing with the horse. I mean, that's going to be. We've always been like into walking and stuff like that. When we lived near the ocean, we used to like to hear the seals, and we really just dug being seeing a lot of birds and that, seabirds and things like that. So that was a whole. Even though it was a city, we were close enough to take walks by the ocean and get to see some natural life,
But now they're in our.
But now we're all over.
Now you're cohabitating.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's so. Yeah, we have turkeys marching through the yard.
Last night,
frog concert
with the moon.
We had it actually snowed a little bit here around Christmas, and we had a bunch of quail marching up the driveway, and you see a deer once in a while, fox. I mean, wow.
It's we have it similar. My wife and I, we have a nature preserve that runs out the back of our backyard is technically backing right into it. It's 600 square acres up here, and so we're in the city, but kind of on the outskirts. And then we have this big natural preserve, and it's interesting. I was literally saying this just the other day in an interview that we have cougar back there, we have deer back there, we have coyotes. We have true wildlife back there, and I grew up in the woods. I grew up on a farm out in the woods, so it's normal for me. But it's interesting to people get blown away by the fact that that's still around. Quail and turkeys and all these things that are you think of them in like rural Kentucky, out in the woods somewhere, not in San Diego County. Like that's not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, the good news is that if this whole ambrosia thing doesn't work out, you can always go into landscaping, Joe.
Joe, definitely.
Actually, my dad was a landscape contractor, so maybe it's in my blood.
See, there it is. There it is. Well, I just kind of touched on it a second ago when I dug into your personal lives, asking you what you guys are up to. But we'd be remiss if we didn't remark a little bit about the fact that we're going through an interesting time in the world. You guys are happy and healthy. You and yours are all staying safe and doing okay.
Everyone.
Yeah, knock on wood. I mean, she's I've hardly left the land here since we last few months. I've been off the property like twice. I'm out in the yard.
Well, when we took him out to see the horse,
that was
this big outing.
Got it. That was for the month. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, basically,
so far has been okay.
We are not bored at all. We have so much to do here and get ready. This is a big deal. I mean, we had mused about getting a horse. I mean, back in my mind, because she loves horses. I thought maybe someday, but like I said, we were living in the city in a condo, and now we actually came across this area by going to see a concert with some friends of ours, Pure Prairie League.
Yeah.
And this part of San Diego, we noticed when we were driving down, it was kind of the Tulies, but there's horses around here. So we just started looking at property, and we found something that fit the bill. And now we just have to get the land level enough.
But now we have time to do it. So
we do.
Yeah.
We're trying to make, I don't know, lemonade out of the lemons,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Totally. Well,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a silver lining. I mean, it affects, I think that, there was a lot of back and forth as to how some celebrities were responding to, the stay at home, where some people were accused of being tone deaf because they were, some celebrities in their multi-million dollar, ridiculous, expansive, houses with, their gyms are as big as most people's houses, and, their state-of-the-art kitchens. And those people were going, oh, I just can't wait to leave. And, people were accusing them of being tone deaf. And I think it's lost. I understand that. I understand there are a selection of people that it affects everyone differently, I guess is where I'm going. This whole thing affects everyone individually and uniquely. And I don't disagree that I think that those with a lot have to be careful, because the majority of people don't have a lot. And, it's one thing to be stuck in an apartment with 5 people versus a 12,000 square foot estate with 4 people, or 3 people.
Right,
but it doesn't mean that both people can't go stir crazy. It doesn't mean that both people can't experience the same loss of life, loss of ability to go do the things they want to do and enjoy themselves. And so, I see people often kind of tiptoe. They're like, oh, this is terrible, but it's allowed me to do a lot of good things. It's allowed me to catch up on things that I wasn't catching up on, or, to your point, Shannon, there is, none of this is good, but as the old quote goes, the happiest people in the world don't have the best of everything. They make the best of everything. It's not to say this isn't terrible, but we can all approach it in our own fashion and, and make the most of it. And I'm sure being in the musical community, I mean, I don't think people recognize how hard it hits people that are so used to being on stage and so used to being in front of fans. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to all of a sudden not be performing so regularly. I mean, it's got to create an itch.
It does. I mean, and it's the hard, one of the hardest things to wrap your head around is like, when is this going to open up again to the point where we can do concerts again? That's kind of the scariest part. We don't really know right now our future. So that makes it a little bit tricky. And as we were talking earlier before that this is going to change everything, how things are approached as far as shows and that. So,
well, and playing live from your living room, like so many are doing, and trying to do things like that is just different. You get energized from the fans when it's live. It's like our wedding. It was so energetic, having that feedback right there from everybody. And how wonderful they are, and that's how the fans are. So I think you miss that more than anything.
Yeah, and it's just right now it's waiting to see when this resolves. What is it going to be like? We just don't know right now, and that's kind of the part that's the most disarming. Like, when will we know when everything gets back to work?
Yeah.
Or how will it be changed so that we can still do, our concerts?
It's the most common question that Star Vista Live receives. And it's, I understand, because the guests booked on the upcoming cruises go, when are you going to give us more information about the cruise? And it's, Star Vista Live does not want to be insensitive. And I know that I can absolutely speak to that, but no pun intended, we're in the exact same boat. We're in the same situation. If cruising doesn't open back up, what can we tell you? What can Star Vista Live say other than we don't know? I mean, if cruising all opens up in June or July or, whenever, great, then, we're good to go. But if it does delay into August, September, October, it starts to really affect a November cruise, a December cruise, a January cruise. And so I hear you. You know, there's so much unknown, and I think that's what I think it scares people not to have a schedule. You know, it's hard to look at something and go, "Don't worry, this ends in 12 days." Okay, I can grid it out for 12 more days. You know, I can work out for 15 more minutes, right? When we have an end goal, you can get to that. But if you're just running it and your watch says not done yet, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know how much farther to go. To your point, Joe, you know, it creates a little fear. I think, you know, it's fear of the unknown. I guess it's a pretty common thing. And, you know, a lot of people watching obviously look up to you guys and love you guys to death. Anything you want to share with, or any messages for the folks watching that might need a little positivity from their idols?
Well, I just want everybody to know, you know, how much we appreciate all the years that they've stood behind us, and that we are there for them in any way we can be. I wish we could reach out and touch everybody that our music has touched. And we're just looking forward to that time again, as you said, to be back in front of people, to be experiencing that energy that you can only get when you're there. And there's nothing quite like what those cruises offered of that intimacy with your audience. It's a different level.
And to thank them, those that are watching too, if they were there. I mean, just for being there and supporting us, and just every day running into them after the wedding was just so amazing. I mean, we loved it. It was so great having them all there, all of them, all of you guys, your wife, Brittany, everyone. She was amazing. You know she was. But it was great having all of those people there supporting us and yelling and cheering and looking back at pictures, people in their bathing suits.
Yeah, in the hot tub.
By the pool.
Unusual.
And, yeah, it was just, they gave me energy. I was so nervous stepping out, and then I heard the music of those that I love so much and looked out there at all those faces. It was just so much fun. So thank you to all of you for being a part of it.
And this too shall pass, and we will get through this. And everybody is working overtime to try to, you know, figure this out and solve it, and just hang in there. Don't give up hope.
Great message. And I know you guys have a horse arriving any minute now, so I don't want to keep you here. I don't want to keep you here because I know the excitement of the horse will end this interview very quickly if that trailer pulls in.
Again, Jason.
Shannon will be like, "See ya." No, well, I just want to say how much we appreciate you guys. I mean, I speak for Star Vista when I say we appreciate you personally as being part of our family and doing these cruises with us. You've been a really big part of it. You've brought some wonderful, wonderful, lasting memories to our guests. I mean, the wedding was, I consider that a different ball game all in itself. Just you musically, you know, Joe, and you and the guys musically. I mean, you bring such a warmth and such a spirit that I know the cruise benefits greatly every time you guys are on. And the wedding, to share something, you know, Shannon, to you specifically, so intimate and personal that you guys had the ability and the willingness to share your love for each other with all those fans. And, you know, talk about a very unique and cool moment that's not something, you know, we talked about at the beginning. When Ambrosia backs a band, it's awesome, because when do you ever see that? When do you ever see a wedding of involving your favorite band with other major artists? You know, it just a unique, very, very one of a kind experience. And I can't thank you guys enough for including Star Vista and that, and all your fans. It's very selfless, and it means a lot to the people that love you.
Well, it meant a lot to us to have all of them and all the things that you guys at Star Vista did for us.
Yeah, we can't thank
over the top, and I'll never be able to thank you enough.
We can't thank you guys.
Amazing.
Star Vista.
So thank you.
Alan Rubens and Janine Morris are rock stars, not to mention everybody that works with and for them. So to say the least. Well, I'll let you guys go because I know you got rocks to arrange, frog ponds to deal with, and horses to acclimate. So we'll say to our fans out there that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in for All Access Pass from Home with Ambrosia, with Joe and Shannon. My name is Jason. I'm your virtual cruise host. Honor having you as always. Do me a favor, stay tuned in to this YouTube channel. More stuff coming up very soon, I am sure. Stay safe, wash your hands, be happy and healthy. We'll see you again soon. Thank you very much, Joe, Shannon, and thanks for everybody for watching.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Thanks, Jason.